Penn State dismantled Iowa. They continue to widen the gap between everybody else. It begs the question once again, how do they do it? How do they continue to do this?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I mean, as we sit here right now and have this conversation, they have 6 wrestlers ranked number 1 at their individual weight class. The gap between the rest of the competition does, in fact, continue to widen. And this is Locked On Nittany Lions. You were locked on to Penn State Wrestling. And thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. My name is Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State Football. And help me welcome back the voice of Penn State Wrestling, Jeff Byers, who was on the call, saw that one between Penn State and Iowa up close, sees all the dual meets up close. So we're going to get a more comprehensive perspective here, talking about how Penn State continues to do it. They perform at such a high level. Yeah, sure, Oklahoma State's making a push. Iowa's taken a bit of a step back. We can all agree on that, but still Penn State continues to distance itself from everybody, and it was on display. So we're going to focus on the Penn State-Iowa dual meet first, and then get to how Penn State has 6 number 1 wrestlers and just overall how the program continues to advance. Jeff, Penn State defeating Iowa 32-3. I expected a result like that. I was expecting Penn State to take at least 8, probably 9, and with the possibility of a shutout. I mean, how did we even get here? I gave the perspective that Iowa is struggling a little bit. You know, the portal moves haven't necessarily worked out the way that they wanted to. They're not recruiting it as high of a level for Penn State as Penn State, as Oklahoma State. So we know that much. But how did the Nittany Lions keep doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things in play. Obviously, I mean, you start with Cael and his staff and just what they have put together and what they came in from day one setting out to do, and that is creating that culture of gratitude, obviously going out and finding guys that are elite wrestlers, but also have that team first mentality. And, I think that the other factor here that maybe doesn't get as much attention as it should is there is zero complacency when it comes to the program from either the wrestlers or the coaches. There's just never, I don't know that there's a moment that any of them sit back and say, man, look at what we've accomplished.
Yeah, we're good.
Which, by the way, would be easy to do when you look at what all of these individuals, coaches and wrestlers that are in that room now have accomplished. It would be, to me, very understandable if you did that. But the focus is always just on the process, on the sport, on having that love and passion for the sport, and wanting to just learn a little bit more, do a little bit more, get a little bit more expert in whatever way you can. And I think, very early on in Cael's tenure, it might have been his second year when they won the first national title here. But I remember talking to him, and I forget now if it was a preseason or a postseason conversation, but the question that I asked, and it was something along the lines of, man, how do you top this? You won a national title. And the answer was, well, you need to be, our goal is to get better every single year. So you're trying to get better as a person, as a coach, as a wrestler, day to day, and then, week to week, month to month. But he was looking at a big picture, and it's like, season to season, like our team next year should be better than this year. And then the team after that, like, we should always be getting better if we're doing our job right. And I mean, that sounds great. And it's a wonderful thing to try to set as a goal. But when you have set a record for NCAA scoring and you have won a third straight national title, it's like, okay, realistically, come on, dude. Like, you're not going to get better than that. And then they go out and they get better than that. And it's like, all right, that is unbelievable. Back-to-back seasons where you set the NCAA record and a new standard for wrestling. But I keep thinking back, and I mean, Cael was absolutely dead serious to say, hey, our job is to keep getting better, to keep making the program. That's our focus, is our program. We want our program to be better than it was the year before. Well, I mean, they are well on their way, Zach, to a third straight season of setting new standards in the sport. Yeah. And I'm sorry, like, that is obviously unprecedented, but it's also hard to wrap your head around, except that is what their focus is, hey, we need to be better than we were yesterday. We need to be better than we were a week ago. We need to be better than we were the last match, and we need to be better than we were last season, regardless of how good you were in that previous season. And it really is a mentality of focusing on self-improvement and not worrying about what else is happening or what the results, quote unquote, are.
And that's what I hear from Cael Sanderson when he speaks. We just talked to Mitchell Messenbrink this week, but you hear it consistently, whether it's from the coaching staff, from the guy himself and Cael Sanderson, or any of the wrestlers. They're all echoing the same sentiment that if you, and I hear this from other people that you hear that are interviewed or give speeches, right? I think of Steve Jobs, and not to get totally philosophical and everything, but the standard is the standard. The process is the process. If you take care of the process, you will check off all of the goals along the way. If you are goal oriented, if you are trying to chase after the prizes, Cael's pointed this out, then you will be satisfied. If you're more concerned with the process and little by little you chip away at what you're trying to improve, which is yourself and the team, then all of those other things will take care of themselves. That's just the test that stood the test of time. That's not my opinion. That's not your opinion, Jeff. That's not even Cael's opinion. That it's just kind of proven at this point. If you want to be this spectacular at something, it's about the process and not the goals. I mean, who would have thought, not even Cael, that he would go out and say, hey, we just won 80 dual meets in a row, and we're probably going to break the JUCO record, and we're probably going to break the NAIA record. He never set out to do that 12 plus years ago. Right. Because then you never would have achieved those goals if that's what you tried to do, if that's what your purpose was.
Yeah, and I mean, really what I think the ultimate objective is, and there is an understanding that the ultimate objective is unattainable, but the ultimate objective is perfection.
And still to come on this episode, Jeff and I continue to discuss why Penn State is able to sustain this kind of success. Jeff also shares his takeaways from what he saw between Penn State and Iowa. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever just to hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the guesswork, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employment forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it all. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150. That's right, just $150 all in if a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year. All you got to do is file by February 28th. Take your taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. And once again, thank you so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network out there. If you haven't already, go check out our all new Everydayer Club. As a member of the Everydayer Club, you will get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Nittany Lions compatible with Apple, Spotify, and every other major podcasting app. You will also get an invite to a members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. Go to lockedonnittanylions.supercast.com or tap the link down in the show notes to learn more.
Right. And in any phase of life, in any profession, as you said, to go down the philosophical track, like perfection is unattainable. I mean, Cael was 159-0. That is a perfect record in his college career. But, he lost in high school. He lost in his redshirt season in college. But what he did was learn from those, figure out what he needed to do to improve. And with every win and loss, went back to work and figured out, all right, I need to do this to get closer to perfection. And again, I love sports as a metaphor for life, and I think wrestling in that regard, again, there just is no such thing as perfection. You're not going to meet a wrestler who went undefeated throughout their career, like from youth wrestling through the Olympics.
Yeah,
it's
all
just
the way through.
Not an attainable thing, because somewhere along the way, somebody's going to have the better of you on a given day. That's just that's the nature of sports in general and wrestling in particular. And again, even if you had that perfect record, undefeated record, which nobody does, there's still, you're still not going to be the perfect wrestler. You're not going to know everything, every move, make the right decision in every situation. But if your goal is, and you're focused on the process of trying to attain, again, what is not possible, but you're doing everything you can to get as close to it. That's just a special mindset. And when you get a group of people with that same mindset, and they're all working to try to help each other achieve the unattainable, I mean, it is really special stuff. And, I think I've mentioned a few times, if not here, I know just in conversation, one of the things that is really just neat to be around with this program right now is, obviously this didn't just happen. This wasn't by accident. This has been years and years in the making, a lot of success along the way, but it's all, again, with the idea of, man, we're going to keep getting better and better, find ways to make the kids even better, to make the program even stronger, to coach better, to figure out better techniques, additional aids that we can do to help the kids improve. And so I think there is a genuine gratitude from Cael and the coaching staff in general toward the kids and their families and what they are achieving, because it does make their job much easier. But the amount of work that went in to creating the opportunity for them to have the quote unquote easier opportunity as a coach. Again, there's not a coach in the world that wouldn't love to have this room right now. Not just, again, the talent, but the attitude, the way these guys help each other, seek out, advice to get better. And we're talking about guys that have achieved the highest levels on the world stage, and they're looking to get coached up, to find ways to improve, and to, take little tidbits from their teammates and add it to their game, and give little tidbits to their teammates to help them with their game. It really is just, we've not seen anything quite like what we're seeing in this 3-year run. And I don't think it's going to end after these 3 years. I mean, I think you're looking at least, a 5-6 year run here of just awe-inspiring wrestling, but also just attitude and work ethic and all of the things that you attribute as positive attributes in sports.
And there are people that wonder why do people go to Penn State and maybe they'll take a backseat role, they'll sit the bench for a period of time, they'll stay through the adversity when they could easily just hit the transfer portal and start somewhere else. And it's because Penn State is that comprehensive program that it's more than just about recruiting and development. It's the gratitude, it's the attitude, it's trying to get into an exclusive club. And that's why you don't see people run to say, well, I'll just start somewhere else, because that's not what it's about. It's not about starting at Penn State. It's about being involved in a program where you enjoy it, you truly get better, everyone's on the same page, so you're all pushing towards the same objective. There's that chemistry. There's that, like I said, it is truly comprehensive across the board. So you can point and say, well, they're getting PJ Duke and Marcus Blaze when the room's already loaded. They're getting somebody like Masanosuke Ono to join the room. But that's again, not the goal. That is a byproduct of what Cael Sanderson has built over a decade plus. So to really understand it, you have to look at the process and not, you can say it is true. Yes, recruiting at a high level helps you win. Okay. It helps you score points. It helps you set records, but it all starts from the beginning of starting with the basics and focusing on truly getting 1% better each time. Jeff, let's pivot now just briefly, because I gave my thoughts and shared, and we know how the Penn State Iowa dual meet went. 32-3. Penn State won all of them except for a 3-2 decision. And honestly, if you wrestle Braden Davis versus Nasir Bailey again in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, maybe they wrestle at Big Tens in the NCAA tournament, I think Braden Davis wins those rematches, and I'm confident that he does. He's only in his second dual meet after, teetering between, is he going to go with the red shirt? Is he going to be in the starting lineup? So I don't overreact to a 3-2 loss when it's his second dual meet compared to Bailey, who's wrestled 15 competitive matches at this point in time. But Jeff, what did you see? I saw a dual meet that was disappointing from the competitive standpoint. My takeaway was, hey, I'm impressed by Penn State. They continue to do this, but I also went in with the expectation that they were going to do this. They should do this. And then they did. And I couldn't help but say that Iowa's just not in the place that they should be. So what was your main takeaway from that dual meet itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple ways you can look at it, and I guess if you were the eternal Iowa optimist, I mean, there were a lot of close scores,
Yes.
and you could argue therefore competitive bouts. I would counter that with, although they were close scores, I don't know that they were all that competitive of a bout. I get that if you're within a takedown, you can get something fluky can happen and you can win the bout, and I've been around the sport enough. I've seen that happen where somebody that everybody agrees watching, man, that guy just is not the same wrestler as the guy that he beat. But you find a way to win. I thought throughout the dual meet, you just felt like Penn State was in control match after match. And even, as you said, in the Davis match, it felt like Davis was going to win that in the third period. And again, hats off to Bailey. And certainly, he earned the win that night. But it felt to me all throughout that duel that it was a matter of time until Penn State was going to win each of those bouts. And, excuse me, I do think there's a mindset sometimes in dual meet wrestling where you're wanting to keep a bout close and you're wrestling with the idea of keeping it close. And maybe you can gain some confidence that way. But I wonder if really you're doing that, because if you're keeping it close and you're not getting the points when you need them to win, I wonder then when you get to tournament time where you have to open up a little bit. I mean, you're again winning or losing a close match does you no good, does your team no good. Whereas in a dual meet, again, it may. The difference between a major decision and a decision, not obviously in the Penn State Iowa duel here, but can be the difference in a dual meet. In the tournament, it doesn't matter on the losing side what you're doing. A loss is a loss, and so You need to be wrestling with the mentality to try to win. And I just don't know that, really the one guy that I thought kind of got out after it a little more was Dean Peterson. And
Ryder Block too. I think I'll give Ryder Block credit too.
But that plays into Penn State's hands. If you go out and you go for it, I mean, Penn State is just skilled enough up and down that lineup that that's what they want. They want you to wrestle. They want you to open up, because over the course of 7 minutes, they're very confident they're going to be able to outscore anybody in the country. And that's, proven out to be the case much more often than not over the last 3 seasons.
Jeff, to see this rivalry, and that's, Penn State fans are going to say it's not a rivalry. Look at what Penn State's doing to Iowa. It's still, you look at this duel. This duel is supposed to be anticipated year in and year out. For the past 5 years or so, it's been Penn State, Iowa, even though there was still a gap and Penn State was winning more often than not, whether that's at the NCAA's Big Ten tournament, in the regular season, the dual meet rankings, right? All that, who has the highest individual rankings across the board when you add them up collectively, which we'll get to in the present with Penn State now having 6 number 1 overall wrestlers. Jeff, you've covered tons of Penn State wrestling, so you've seen the ups and downs. Programs rise to the top, they settle back down, they get on a hot streak. For me, again, I haven't been covering Penn State nearly as long as you have, but it's disappointing to see Iowa drop off so quickly. It's not just a step back. I mean, we're talking about a dual meet last year that was 30-8, and then this time 32-3 in Carver Hawkeye Arena. And since Penn State's not going to wrestle Oklahoma State until the postseason, you might get Iowa State again, if you selectively schedule them at the journeyman duels or something like that, but you don't get those routine. I'm glad Ohio State's kind of risen to the occasion here. We get a fun one in the Bryce Jordan Center, but I think of Penn State and Iowa as that premier matchup every single season, whether outside of, you have the Big Ten dual meets, you have the Big 12, you have other conferences. There is no rivalry that's supposed to compare to Penn State, Iowa. And that's what I mean when I say disappointment. How do you see it with what Iowa's kind of dealing with right now? Still to come on this episode, why is Iowa not able to keep up anymore with Penn State, let alone some of the other heavy hitters in college wrestling right now? We also talk about the 6 ranked Penn State wrestlers that are at the top spot. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game day of the playoffs. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. And here's what you're going to love about it. You get to use a profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. You can ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. You can take a shot on an underdog if you feel like an upset is coming, or build a parlay around the players, the moments that you think will decide the game. Then apply that profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app to get your playoff profit boosts every game day.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think they're that far off. And I think, again, if you look at some of the scores and you look at where their kids are ranked and, could they pull some things together here in the postseason? Yes, but the track record here in recent years is not good. That they have not been a program that has peaked in the postseason, which is what everybody's trying to do. And, we've seen different schools, Nebraska last year, Michigan a few years ago. We've seen different schools rise to the occasion, as you put it, but nobody rises as consistently as Penn State does to the postseason. And again, I think there's a lot of things that go into it. And you start with, they are recruiting exceptional athletes, exceptional wrestlers, and exceptional people. And that is a really good combination to start with. But I think, there's also just a mentality there that allows Penn State to excel when the pressure is greatest. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do in any sport, but in wrestling in particular, because to me, wrestling is the reason we call it the world's oldest and greatest sport, at least in part, is it is not just the physical challenge. And I do think it's a physical challenge, unlike any other in sport, but it is the mental challenge as well. And it's not just a mental challenge with your opponent, it's more so the mental challenge with yourself. Hey, do I have the confidence to actually go out and try what we've been working on in practice? Do I have the confidence that I can go out and hit a big move against a top competitor in a big moment? It's one thing to tell yourself that, it's another to actually go out and perform in those situations. And Penn State, again, under Cael's tenure, but in particular from 2016 on, we've just not seen anything close to what Penn State has been able to do in terms of the NCAA tournament performances in the history of the sport. They just, their top end guys perform at such a high level that nobody else can compete. And that's just a remarkable testament to the people that Penn State is recruiting, but also obviously the way Cael and the staff coach these kids up.
It's that no one's been able to figure it out, and everybody that you ask, you talk to Mitchell Messenbrink, there's no secret. There's no, it's just the standard is the standard, and it's available to everybody. For the people that think, well, Penn State just has better resources, or it's because of X, Y, Z, and that it's a long process. It's a difficult process, but any other program, in theory, could do it if they followed what Cael and company are doing to a T. But that's the difficulty, is being able to follow that on a day-to-day basis and having the gratitude and the attitude along the way. Like you said, the mindset, the mental battle. Okay, that's part of it. Being able to do it on a daily basis, that's the mental battle. It's not even just the dual meets. It's the day-to-day practices, the training, the diets, the studying, whatever you want to whatever you want to do to separate yourself as a better wrestler. A lot of these guys are involved in freestyle. Not all the Iowa wrestlers, they partake in the freestyle. They go there, they train, they get stronger. They're folk style primarily, and then you don't really see them on the freestyle circuit. So just kind of weigh all of that together. As we wrap up this conversation, Jeff, and we bring it to the present here, Penn State's going to wrestle Indiana and Maryland this weekend. There's really not much to analyze per se. These are dual meets that Penn State should sweep across the board 10-0. Indiana and Maryland, just not the best competition in the Big Ten Conference. But Penn State does get a gauntlet soon enough between Nebraska, Michigan, and Ohio State all back-to-back. So that will be exciting. But looking at the rankings presently here, there are 6 Penn State wrestlers that are now number 1 overall. Now, I won't say, surprisingly enough, Marcus Blaze. No, Marcus Blaze is in the top 5. PJ Duke, though, that is one where I could say maybe he should be number 1, but I guess there is precedent here with Brandon Cannon, and Caleb Larkin's been really good over at Arizona State. So PJ Duke does come in at number 3, and we know that Braden Davis at 141, just getting situated, in Cole Mirasola at heavyweight are just outside of the top 10 of the rankings, but they're right there. They're right on the doorstep of being inside the top 10. And Jeff, it just once again backs up what we're talking about, what we spend the past 20 plus minutes analyzing about, Penn State's so successful. And here we are, Penn State having 6 number 1 wrestlers, and then just 2 inside the top 5 and 2 just outside of the top 10 at 11 and 12 respectively.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, there's, work to be done here, but the expectation certainly at this point is that Penn State will have 8 starters undefeated into February, which is, again, just nuts to think about when you're facing the type of competition that Penn State does, and you're wrestling in a conference like the Big Ten. And I understand that it's, the schedule is a little backloaded this year in terms of the conference duels. It's still 8 wrestlers undefeated going into the final month of the regular season. It's just absurd. I mean, regardless of the competition. And again, Penn State has faced across the board some very good competition at each of the weight classes. So, yeah, I mean, again, I think we've been saying from day one, Penn State had at least 8 legit national title contenders and 10 contenders for AA honors and probably high All-American honors when it's said and done. And, certainly to this point, there's nothing that would cause you to back off from that statement. So we've just not seen a program have the margin for error. You think back to last season and, the somewhat disappointing semifinal round, and then you have 5 kids that come back and take third, and you still end up setting the new scoring mark. Well, if these guys do what Penn State has historically done since 2016 under Cael Sanderson and Casey Cunningham and Cody Sanderson, and perform at the highest levels in the NCAA tournament and in the semifinals and finals, again, more history could very well be made here this season in Cleveland.
It's crazy to think, and we're all seeing. So enjoy the process itself as it all unfolds. Penn State takes on Indiana on Friday in Rec Hall, and then travels to Maryland for another back-to-back dual meets over the course of the weekend. Jeff Byers, of course, will have the call. As always, you can check that out over at gopsusports.com. And that is where we will finish this conversation on Locked On Nittany Lions. He is the voice of Penn State Wrestling, Jeff Byers. My name is Zach Seyko, your host of Locked On Nittany Lions. As always, thank you for joining us on this episode. If you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to check out Jeff's work outside of Penn State Wrestling, links to his work will be down in the description. Jeff, thank you so much for the time as always. And of course, with the inclement weather pending, safe travels. Yes, very much safe travels to College Park, and can't wait to talk to you again in the not too distant future.
Thanks, Zach.